waste my life. I don't wanna waste my life living in this world.
With the beats.
It's just some things, there's no going back. You know what I'm saying?
jwoodbeats.com.
Yeah, I'm not the one with the issues. I hear you. Now here is your tissue. If I'm moving too fast, I might have to dismiss you. And it's really too bad, cause I really will miss you. But I'm not the one with the issues. I left him at church when I made it official. I murdered the curse with my own benediction. Left God in the dirt, call it death of the fiction. Superstition will be served an eviction. Competition will be left in the ditch. Oh my God, it's too damn hot in this kitchen. The fishes of men are now swimming with fishes. Oops, my bad, I guess I'm moving too vicious. Verses sold, I gotta put them on your wish list. Bless my soul, cause I'm dodging your little hit list. I guess you know, you just lost another witness.
Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go right now. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go, I'm out of here. I can do anything, fuck your opinions and energy. I finally got the epitome. My biggest hindrance was God can't do nothing but fail. Greater is me, I never needed your deity. All of this human capacity, when it gets rough, I can pick myself up and prevail. Cause I don't need anything other than people who fuck with me. Good business, it starts with good company. That's why your boy is obsessed with community. Cause greater is we. We can create opportunity. Doing what God never did, cause a God never could. But a people is all we need. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go, yeah. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go right now. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go, yeah. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go, I'm out of here.
What's up, family? How are y'all doing on this Friday night? I started to name this happy hour. Like, this is, oh man, and I know this is a surprise. This is something that nobody expected. This wasn't on my schedule. It wasn't on my calendar. But I am just getting off of work now, and I got about 30 minutes to 45 minutes till before we start eating. And so I'm like, you know what, let me hang out a little bit, because honestly, work has been so hectic that I haven't been able to be as active in the Discord channel as I want to. So I definitely just wanted to just hang out a little bit. So I don't really have an agenda for this. So I don't know how this is gonna go. We're just hanging out for a moment. I see Alyssa is here. What's up, Alyssa? She has my favorite Baphomet plushie in the world. Yeah. All right. Rob Rodriguez. Yes, sir. Hello. And I'm assuming, sir, please, if I'm wrong there, please correct me. I will humbly adjust. I love that song. Where can I find it? Well, first, I got to fix it, you know. I actually don't own the rights to that beat. Oh, by the way, that's me on the song. But I don't own the rights to that beat. It's a free beat on YouTube, and I just wanted to do something creative for the channel. And so I wrote that little bit of thing for it. And then the other thing, here's the thing. So I don't know if y'all know this, but I drink a little bit, you know. And so when I recorded it, of course, I recorded it as a rough draft. And like, there's a whole typo in the song. Like, so I think I said, I can do anything. Fuck your opinions and energy. I finally got the epiphany. My biggest hindrance is God can't do nothing but fail. But in that rough draft, I had been drinking a little bit. And I think I said, I finally got the epitome. And that doesn't fit that way unless you have some creative way of interpreting it. Let me know, and then I'll keep that shit in there. But no, I need to do some work there to make that available. Hey, I like that. Blackwater Ted. Oh, that's dope. Okay. I never knew you could rap, bro. LOL. I like. Oh man, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, like I consider myself somewhat of a Renaissance man. Like I've always loved art in all and all shapes, sizes. I can't get my words right. It's been a long day at work, but I've always loved art, you know, and I've always liked being really diverse. I'm gonna see if I can get this one right because there was one that I wrote and I can never remember the beginning of it, but it was like when I bodied the bank, I put time in the bag and I told her to wait till I took what she had. What she had was on hold when old from the past. So I became the bank and mortgaged that ass. Uh, I mortgaged the house in the grass on the mill, the 40 acres in the mule in the mill. I took it all because I can't help but to feel that it was left for me somewhere in the wheel, somewhere in the world. They will say what I'm preaching is heaven's dues. These leeches and thieves going ahead of you. Got you untethered beside yourself, head confused. Got you missing out on the best of you. Listen, you young and you restless, so hustle up and get the hustling. Young hustler like Russell Simmons in the prime of his hustle. There's no forgiveness for irrelevant. I'm gonna stop right there, but yeah, like I do have a passion for art, man. Like I got a passion for lyricism, for poetry. I considered myself for years like a hopeless romantic. And it's like, what was that song? What was that movie? There was a movie. Like, of course, there was stuff like Poetic Justice for those of us who grew up in the 90s, that you grew up on Poetic Justice, Brown Sugar. And so, like, falling in love with hip hop was like falling in love, period. You know what I'm saying? It was like finding a language that spoke to you. And I had enough. And that's an interesting thing. You don't think that you'd find that in the South, but I had enough a diverse background that my love, like it was a love for art for me. And so because of that, I could love hip hop, I could love jazz, I could love blues, I could love country, I could love opera. I love musicals, like, oh my goodness, because I love music. Like that shit just speaks to me. I appreciate y'all. Y'all are super nice, man. Especially for just jumping on just like on an impromptu, like right. And like I said, I had nothing really major planned to talk about. I'm just kind of hanging out while my family kind of get their stuff together. Um, my wife just went grocery shopping and I'm just getting off of work. And so I just figured out I'd hang out with y'all for a little bit during this time. Cause again, like I said, I haven't been able to really be plugged in the way that I want to because of my work schedule. And this stuff is hectic, but I think I'm getting my team shaped up where they need to be at work to where we can kind of normalize our operations so that I can be back. I can get my time back. Like Memphis, that one right there. So that's what I got to do. I got to look back to know that I'm pointing in the right direction. But I'm working on part 2 of it. And I've been working on it for like 2 years. And I already have like nearly 400 pages of that one done. But it feels like it's going to be a big one. And then I started a new book, which I think and y'all talk to me on this one, right? Holla at your boy. I wanted to write a book about what my experience was like in the past 10 years as an atheist in the closet, you know, kind of like in the prayer closet. And during that time, while I was very much kind of to myself, like I was still active in what I was trying to do and what I was trying to accomplish. And so I'm trying to write it out now. Which I say trying, like I was gonna try to write out all 10 years in one book. And then it turns out like in order to do that, that's gonna be a 300 to 500 page book. And I gotta finish my novel. And so I can't do that. So I decided to break it up into just like I think 2 or 3 year increments. So I do have the first one already done. And I don't know what to name it. Like, I think the first thing I was going for was, yes, my life as an atheist. And then the second thing is because I started this series on my channel. I had to remember I started this series on the YouTube channel. That's how, like, Y'all, that's how draining work has been. Is like I have to remember what I'm doing. But I started this series on the YouTube channel to support the organization Black Nonbelievers, and it's called Black Nonbelievers Next Door. And I had already been playing with that title because I'm participating in a documentary that'll be rolling out, I think, next year. And one of the side conversations that have come from that documentary, because my whole family are non-believers, is the idea of doing a reality show on my family. Now, please, like, it's not in the works or anything like that. It's just been a side conversation. And one of the potential names for that side conversation reality show was Black Nonbelievers Next Door, you know. So I thought that might be appropriate to do for the book, you know, because that's really what it is. That's who I've been since 2014. That's who my family has been. We've been the Black Nonbelievers Next Door. Unemployed, and I've still been feeling tired about stuff. I get it, Eeyore. Yes, man. It's insane. Like, okay, so let me I manage a team because my role just changed at work over the past. Okay, so let me take it back. In June, after being the project manager on our largest project, I got a call that our company was doing what's called a RIF, which is a reduction in force. And so I was unemployed for like 2 months. I know, nobody knew. I don't know if it was 2 months. I was expected to be unemployed for 2 months. And they were trying to restructure the budget because of the work that I had done with the client. And they wanted to find a way to keep me, but they needed a month to restructure the budget. Well, they actually needed 2 months, but they ended up coming into another need. So they ended up bringing me back a month earlier for another position, but then moved me over into the position that they wanted me for. So I've moved from project management to operations management. Oh, snap. Okay, I'm going to stop talking because there's a super chat. What's some advice you'd give to some up and coming atheist content creators? Thank you, Blackwater Ted. And that's $5. Man, I appreciate the question. And that's a good question. Wow. Number one, I'd say, and let me give you a little bit of insight into my journey, right? Some of these videos you won't be able to find because I've deleted them. Well, not deleted them. I can still see them. You can't, but many of them were right here on this channel. Though you have just come in contact with my content this year. I've been making content for a while. Ever since I stopped pastoring, I kept making content. But one of the things that I did was I definitely tried to toe the fence. And again, that's why I considered myself an atheist in the prayer closet. I even tried to, like, after I had been an atheist for about 3 or 4 years, I even tried to take on the role of pastoring again. Because I thought that maybe I could just kind of be the middle line for people. And without revealing my atheism, I could help people in different ways. And it really just didn't work that way. You know what I'm saying? Like it did not, just yikes. So like the first key is just nobody has a blueprint for who you are, right? And so authenticity is so key. So like there are probably other people who will look at my channel and look at the videos I do and who can immediately name 15 to 30 things that I am doing absolutely wrong by all considerable, by all measurable standards. And honestly, there's quite a few things that I can look at my channel and it's like, bruh, this needs to be like 10 times better, right? But embracing authenticity for me means realizing what I have the tools to do and what I don't have the tools to do, and not putting any pressure on myself that I don't have the bandwidth to fulfill, right? So like, and I think some of you have been in my Sunday sessions where I've straight snapped on folk about stuff like that. Cause like they'll be in our lives and they'll be like, oh, the mic isn't right or the lighting isn't right. And I'll honestly be like, okay, well just get the fuck out, because I'm not an audio engineer, nor am I a lighting production professional. And I'm not going to put that pressure on myself to be all of those things, because then by doing so, I rob myself of authenticity. And so the biggest thing is be authentic, man. Like you don't feel like you have to go out and buy the latest gear. Like when my first big boost on this content on this channel, I was recording from a cell phone. And I mean, like it's that content is still up. Like you can go back and look at it. Yeah, well, you seem to have like I appreciate that, man. Like I try to. Like, but I literally started with a cell phone. Like I know I look like I'm doing well off, but and I don't need any sympathy by a long shot. Like my family, we live okay. We have a decent vehicle. We have a decent house. It took us a long time to get here. You can probably Google my name and find GoFundMe's from when we were on like our hardest times in life. And so like we're not there anymore, but we literally have no margin. But people valued the content that we were putting out and the authenticity of it. That a very close friend, and I'll never hide this, Stacy and Dee from the Stacy's Mom podcast. They sent us out this mic, this one right here, and the camera that you're watching me on. They sent me that as a gift because they found value in this content. And so that's just the power of authenticity. Because the thing is, like, and this is, I think, is Simon Sinek, who kind of he coined this idea of first adopters only. And normally I don't really buy into like pseudo business talk, but this ideology was so profound and it works so well, not just for content creators, but just for like existing as an authentic human being. And that is, don't feel the need to cater to people who don't get you. You know what I'm saying? While you're creating content, the people you're looking for are the people who identify with the stuff you're saying. Especially if you're not out here trying to proselytize. You're not out here trying to convince. You're not out here trying to convert. You know what I'm saying? Nor are you out here trying to condemn. You're trying to find people who identify, who correlate. You know what I'm saying? Because I had to throw another C in there. But you're trying to find people who identify with some of the things that you're saying. And the reason I highlight that is because a lot of people get discouraged and start feeling like, well, maybe I need to do this or maybe I need to do this. And I'm like, maybe, but are the people you're doing it for the people you're trying to reach? Are the people you're doing it for the people you're trying to build community with, you're trying to build relationship with? Because of my aim for authenticity on this channel, I am incredibly direct with people, especially in my comments. If I feel like you're being, of good faith and you vibe with the things we're trying to do, like you're going to get like really positive, limited interactions from me from my comments. Because again, I do have a full-time job and my job is not 40 hours a week. It's 60 to 80 hours a week. And then I also have 4 children who are between the ages of 12 and 16. You know what I'm saying? And then I also have a wife. And then not only do we have this channel is a part of what we do with DLDD World Group and the Bridge and Bridge City Global. So it's just like, bandwidth and margin are two things I don't have right now. But circling back to this question, authenticity, be authentic, be honest and direct, and be very clear about who you're trying to reach. one of the things that I had to get really comfortable with when I started getting free to share content on my channel, specifically atheist content, is to go ahead and get really clear that I am not for everybody. I don't exist for you to vicariously live through me. So, like, one of the things I am incredibly averse to is when people come on the channel and say, I would do this, or you should do this. Motherfucker, start your own channel. You know what I'm saying? And you will never see me on that channel saying you should do this. And it's just a rule of thumb in leadership. You know, and because leadership has been my passion since I was like 11, just a rule of thumb in leadership. Anytime you're telling a leader what they should do, the only thing you're really informing us is what you won't do. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you ever really want to be helpful, whether it's for an organization, a company, a community, whatever it is, if you want to be helpful, don't look for what other people should do. Look for what you can do. Hallelujah. But no, okay, so authenticity, be authentic, just be yourself. Don't feel the need to cater to people who you're not really building your content for anyway. And then really pay attention. So like, and there's that fine line. One of the earliest forms of feedback that I got on this channel is because if you go back and look at my earlier videos, especially the shorts, but I think not even the shorts, I think just all of my, maybe the first 5 or 6 videos I did on this channel this year, all had musical background. And people did not like that. And they let me know. All right. So one thing you may not realize about me is that I do take all critique seriously, especially if I find that critique to be in good faith. Doesn't mean I'll agree with your critique, but it just means I'll take it seriously. And so I saw that enough people kept saying, hey, bro, we don't want to hear the music. You have a great voice. Cut the music out. I listened to that and I cut the music out. Now, the people who said stuff like the music is unbearable, I'm not going to listen to this. I didn't give a fuck about those people. I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. That's never gonna motivate me. If you're telling me what you're not going to do, then you're just telling me what you're not going to do. And so if you're just like, oh, the music sucks, I'm not going to watch, you're telling me more about you than the music. You know what I'm saying? But for the people who said, hey, bro, I appreciate your voice so much that I could really do without the music, you know. And honestly, the music is a little distracting. I'm going to keep watching anyway because I really enjoy this content. But man, I really wish the music wasn't there. So guess what I did? I cut out the music. So that last one is be responsive. Don't feel like you, again, like, and that's why I had to say the other one first. Don't feel like you got to cater to everybody. And then measure that out. Like, what are the reasons you're doing your channel? What are the reasons you're creating content? What are the reasons you're putting it out there? Why are you sharing this information? And keep the main thing the main thing. The moment that everything becomes important, nothing is important. And that's the thing in social media. Much of the people who are going to connect to your channel initially are people who are looking for something to identify with. And then you're also going to have quite a few trolls. And those trolls are going to be people who are saying, I'm mad at you because you're not me. I'm mad at you because you don't think what I think. I'm mad at you because you're not saying what I want you to say. And just remember, you don't owe them motherfuckers anything, you know? So it's authenticity, you know? Authenticity. Don't cater to people who aren't really supporting you anyway. Like if people say stuff to you like, well, if you did this, I would support more. They're lying. Skip over them. Okay. Skip over them. It's the people who say, I'm going to support anyway, but this is uncomfortable. Listen to them. That's where the being responsive comes from. And then also just pay attention into what's going on in the larger community. One of the things that we've definitely tried to be intentional about with our channel, which I think has served us fairly well, is partnering with other content creators, you know. And like that, don't try to build a relationship. And it doesn't take months and years to do so, but I a lot of times the temptation is to just reach out to people and say, hey, will you be on my show? Or hey, can I be on your show? And I think out of everybody that's reached out to me like that ever, I've only responded to one, you know? And that was only because it was someone who was already on my list to reach out to. And so, like, I know for me, for the first few shows that I was on, these were people who I had saw their podcast. And I can give 3 examples right off the top of my head. Tim Mills with the Harmonic Atheist, Ichabod, Brady Goodwin, and Stacy from Stacy's Mom podcast, Stacy and D actually. Which, just to kind of walk you through that, I had saw Brady on Myth Vision. And that was at the end of last year. And it blew my mind. Because when I was a believer, especially when I was a freshman in high school, I was really hard on cross movement music. Like when I flow with gospel, like I was, oh man, because it was a lot of, I had seen other gospel hip hop, but it felt like it was trying so hard to be grungy. And that just wasn't necessarily cool to me, you know? But cross movement, they had this intersectionality of sometimes in their videos they're wearing suits and sometimes they're in hood attire, and that spoke more to who I was. So when I saw Brady on Myth Vision sharing his deconversion story, and I'm like, oh, that's fanatic. Like I used to know these lines. Like I used to know these songs. Like in 9th grade, this music drove me. This music was fuel for my faith. And I, you know, by this time I'd been an atheist for 10 years, and I'm seeing somebody else, you know, who's fully deconverted as well and has written a book about it and is publicly talking about it on a platform with Myth Vision, because I'd been watching Myth Vision for a few years at that moment. And I was just like, holy snap. So I found Brady on Facebook and started following his content. You know what I'm saying? And then I was like, oh, like it was refreshing for me because I was just like, okay, so this dude is like the real deal, you know? And so I was engaging with his content little by little. Oh man, I had a little bit more bandwidth back then. I miss project management. But I was engaging with his content little by little. And then that opened the rabbit hole. I checked out Stacy's Mom podcast. I forgot what interview I initially saw, but I ended up seeing them doing an interview of somebody who was also charismatic. And then that was the thing about them, is that they had this charismatic background. So they come from the speaking in tongues. They come from the worship culture. They came from the purity culture. And so it was like, oh man. So I found them on Facebook and I started engaging their content. And then we started chit-chatting in Messenger little by little, because all of us were excited, you know, just to find other people who were deconverting, which I guess kind of leads me to another thing. And this is, I think everybody kind of enters creating content on YouTube with these high hopes of getting recognized by these huge content creators. And I'm like, if you're really being like genuine and authentic, look for the people who are in your realm, in your scope of influence, and who are also like, and that's not even scope of influence, like who are close to where you are, because they're going to share your excitement. You know what I'm saying? Because that's exactly what happened with me, Stacy, Tim, and Brady. when we started chatting, we were all excited to meet somebody else who had deconverted, and that was the conversation. The conversation wasn't, can I be on your show? The conversation was, hey man, I'm so excited that I got to come across you sharing your story, and this meant something to me. And you know, we were able to build conversation from there, and eventually it became, hey, why don't you come on the show? And Brady, I did my first interview with Brady on Ichabod. His stuff is pre-recorded, so it came out later, because then I ended up doing my first live interview with Stacy's mom. And then I also ended up doing an interview with Tim Mills. And those are the things that that really I consider were the most prevalent to my channel's early success, at least for the sure. And I mean, it's still early now. I've only been creating content since February. And in February, I had 52 subscribers. And right now we're over 5,000. So, yeah. Oh, man, that's dope. God is Not Great is one of my favorites. I saw you had a video on it. Yeah, I plan on doing a lot more videos on books that have been written by free thinkers, atheists, because there's just a plethora of content out there, and people don't always have the time to read, nor do they have the time to go through the whole audio book. And so this is just a great way to introduce some of those books to people, so that they can, you know, determine, oh, I think he said enough to make me go pick that up. And yes, Stacy's mom, she does got it going on. Every time I talk to them, that song runs in my head. But then it's there's another song that I end up mashing that up with. Stacy's mom has got it going on. Oh, and Jesse's Girl, 'cause I'm in love with Jesse's girl. You know, Stacy's mom has got it. I feel like those songs can mash up somehow. Maybe somebody will do a Glee episode on it. I don't know. I'm gonna have to wrap up in a few, but this has been beautiful. We've been here for 32 minutes. Y'all been hanging out with me. Y'all got any more questions before I roll up out of here? I've told y'all a little bit about what I do for work. What do y'all do for work? Oh, I was gonna tell you what my schedule kind of looks like, right? So I get up typically between 6 and 7, and wash my face and all that good stuff, and I come straight to this little spot here, and for about an hour I check into work, which means I'm going to be facing this way and this way. Check in on my teams, which most of my teams are not there that early, but it's typically me checking to see if anything came in over the weekend, over the night, anything that I need to respond to, anything that came from other departments. I love sales. That's like, oh, construction. Wow. I should have been able to figure that out, Dale. I should have been able to figure that out based on some of the other things you've shared. LA fitness sales. Yes, I really do need to get back into the gym. I'm getting chubby around the cheeks. But so I check in with any other departments, make sure I haven't missed any emails and things of that nature, and try to get my day structured. And then I shift back over to this way on this computer, and I go through my notes and see what video notes I may have set for my video of the day. Kroger's in the house. I so wish we had a Kroger's in Dothan or Midland City. Technically, I live in Midland City. I got to remember that. But it's like 2 minutes away from Dothan. And then so then I come over here and I go through my notes, and I have like tons and tons of notes that I keep of different video ideas that I can do, because I try to keep this commitment regardless of how busy I am, to drop a video every day, Monday through Friday. Oh, Christ held up. Okay, I'll talk about that next. All right, so you just bought some more time from me. So then once I find whichever notes I want to attach to, or sometimes I'll have to create some new notes. So, because sometimes I'll have an inspiration of just like, oh, this is going to be good. I'll pull together my notes. This normally takes me about an hour or so. And then I'll go ahead and record my video. This takes me another hour or so. And then I'll set up my stuff to start designing my thumbnail and all that. And then I'll come back over here and put my focus this way and focus on work. Greet my teams, greet my agents, make sure they're all feeling loved, appreciated, and valued. And they're feeling like they can bring their best selves to work. And they pretty much have my attention from that time on. Now, at the same time, I am checking my Discord throughout the day, which I haven't been able to be as responsive to. But I'm always highly responsive to my YouTube comments for very mathematical reasons. I got to get better about Patreon, which I think I told y'all earlier. Like, I don't accept any pressure that's out of my control. And so the truth of the matter is I got to get a better team to get better about Patreon and Discord. So, because I can't do anything that I can't do. Welding, that's what's up. I just had a Facebook memory of one of the first lecterns I had. I had somebody weld it for me because I wanted to have a design of it myself. Don't know the name of their god. Yeah, like it's really sad that, but my easy answer to that is because they're disingenuous. You know, that was one of the reasons I deconverted, is because of how many people who had this belief that they claimed to stake their eternal soul on, but didn't care about enough to actually evaluate or interrogate, you know. So I check in with my teams, and then I try to balance everything else. I try to respond to all my YouTube comments, my TikTok comments, which I'm also a little slow on. I have tons of email messages that I get that I try to stay up on. And then we do have a volunteer team that I'm trying to get better about. Like, regardless of what's going on at work, I'm trying to make sure that I'm showing love and actually building camaraderie around our volunteer team. Because we have about a dozen people on our team now, and a few of them know each other, but for the most part, they don't. And so, like, I have to find a way to make that happen. And then I also spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to actually organize our community. So, you know, we do our Sunday sessions, our ex-pastor call-in show, and then Bible study with an ex-pastor. And then for the last ex-pastor call-in show of the year, I'm thinking about doing an ex-pastor panel. So instead of it just being me and Kyle, it'll be me, Kyle, and a few other ex-pastors. And I have to work through the logistics of that. So I do spend a lot of my time thinking through different things we could do as a community, which we have some great volunteers who are helping to take along. And like, I don't even want to call them volunteers anymore. They're contributors. Many of them are partners and damn near leaders who are helping us really build some healthy community. I do not stream on TikTok, and that's only because I'm an old man and TikTok still scares me. So every now and then I just do a little video. But I plan to, like, as soon as I get the bandwidth, I damn sure plan to. So you asked about Christ Held Up. This is Christ Held Up. Yes, it's my newest book. And it's actually, like, this one is selling faster. We'll see if it sells better than my other books, but it's selling faster than all my other books. And I'll just read you the background off of it. A furniture artist and designer. Oh, that is fascinating. Oh, debates. Awesome. 29. Man, I remember when I was 29, I was wasting my fucking life. Here's some advice. Don't do that shit, you know. But no, that is awesome. That is awesome. Oh, cool. Like, I have a one of my friends who I've had on the channel a few times, Valsi from the Black Atheist Coalition and Valsi Thoughts. He does debates on there. Do you have a link to Stacy's mom? I do. Give me a moment. I'm going to hit this and don't let me forget. So this is my book, Christ Held Up. This isn't a shameless plug. Somebody asked, so I have to talk about it, right? I'm going to read the back of it. So in Christ Held Up, What's Talking So Long, Durante Lamar, that's me, which, by the way, Lamar is not my last name. It's my middle name. My last name is Martin. Takes readers on an intellectually stimulating journey through history and theology to explore one of Christianity's most pressing questions. Why has the anticipated return of Christ been delayed? With a blend of scholarly insight and conversational tone, Durante delves into the complexities surrounding the Second Coming, examining historical context, theological nuances, and the differing expectations of various religious factions. Through meticulous research and thoughtful analysis, Lamar challenges conventional interpretations and encourages readers to engage with the text critically. By highlighting the discrepancies between the Jewish Messiah and the Christian Christ, this book offers a fresh perspective on age-old beliefs. Durante's work is not about providing definitive answers, but about inspiring a deeper quest for understanding and truth. Whether you're a believer seeking clarity, a scholar interested in theological debates, or a curious reader looking for an enlightening read, Christ Held Up promises to enrich your understanding and provoke thoughtful reflection on the intricacies of faith and expectation. So that's what Christ Held Up is. And what I kind of tell people, because I don't know where you are in your deconstruction journey, and I don't know where you are in your relationship with other believers. But if you want a tool to help you have a conversation with the believers where you can kind of help them think without being a jackass, Christ Held Up is a good book for that. It's really short to read. It's conversational. It's a book that I started writing before I deconverted. So it still has that grace for belief, even though it's been edited since after I deconverted. So for that reason, and by the way, if y'all are wondering why I'm looking over here, it's because I'm gonna pull up the Stacy's podcast link so I can drop that in the chat for y'all. But yeah, so like if you want to be able to have conversations with people where you are where you're not necessarily a jackass, but you want to be able to have a serious conversation and be able to talk about this, because like a lot of times when you talk to believers about the foolishness of their belief, you're talking about it from a context outside of the language that they use. And what Christ Held Up does, it uses the Bible to show them that this idea of Christ returning isn't even biblical. And I do it, and forgive me for patting myself on the back, I do it in such a genius and strategic way that people don't even know what's happening until they're feeling the emotions. And then it's like, because I know there's one part in the book where I go through lengths of just kind of highlighting, because the people who are believers, and I just dropped Stacy's mom link in the chat, guys. That's the link to their channel. But people who believe this stuff, they see these characters as real. And I'm not necessarily saying that these characters aren't real. My belief isn't that they're not real. My belief is that they're not relevant enough for me to give a damn. But for believers, many of them believe that these characters are real. And so because of that, one of the genius things that I do in the book is to help them imagine what it feels like for Judas to have denied or to have neglected your wife, your family, your children, to have forsaken your houses and your lands, to follow this Jesus because you believe he's going to reestablish a kingdom. And then he gets crucified. You know, you got to imagine being Judas. You got to imagine being Thomas. You got to imagine being Peter. You got to imagine being Mary. He gets crucified and he dies and he stays dead for 3 days. Like, imagine the mind fuck, right? Trust me, follow, stay with me. I'm going somewhere. You have to imagine the emotional turmoil all of them are going through. This person who they thought they were following into a new kingdom. And let's be real, they're all clout chasing, right? At this moment, they're all following this guy because he has promised them a seat in his new kingdom. And so they have been willing to risk it all, like hawk to us, spit on that thing type of devotion to this man. because they believe he's going to establish a new kingdom. This is the context of the scriptures, that he's going to deliver them from oppression. And then he gets crucified and dies a bloody, embarrassing death in front of them. And then he stays dead for 3 days. Oh my, imagine the turmoil. Like, imagine how many of their families who they abandoned are saying, see that you left to follow him, and now what? You know, and in the context of the scriptures, the disciples, they go back to their old lives because they're like, shit, I got bamboozled. But then imagine on the third day. I say, imagine on the third day. Well, I never preached like that, by the way. Now, I think, imagine on the third day, yeah, God started working his magic. I did preach like that every now and then. It was not something that I did commonly, but in those latter years, and it's interesting, the more I started deconstructing and deconverting, the more performative I became as a pastor, which was actually some of my greatest years. I cannot lie. But again, so you imagine on a third day, after spending 3 days in absolute disillusionment, having to face everybody you abandoned, that miraculously this guy rises from the dead. Oh, what power that is. You know what I'm saying? And for whatever reason, even though he's a ghost, he still needs to move the tomb. He can't move the stone. He can't just walk through that shit. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so but this is suspending our disbelief for the sake of the believer, you know? And so now imagine Mary, Judas, Peter, Thomas, and how relieved they must feel that, oh, just when I thought that I had wasted the past 3 years of my life following this bullshit. Okay, so you really are the Messiah. All right, so now you're going to fix all of this shit, right? Now you're going to save the world, because that's what John the Baptist said. Behold, here is the Lamb who comes to take away the sins of the world, right? This is what gets quoted in John chapter 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And these are the people who have believed in him. And so they're feeling the relief of that shit. Like, he's here. He came back. He was dead. I was worried. My wife was like, see there, you abandoned us for 3 years and this dude scammed y'all. But now he's back. And he's back with all power in his hands. And Mary runs up to him and embraces him. This is in the text. Mary runs up to him, like she squeezes him. And he says, let go of me, woman. My work is not done yet. It's like a Dave Chappelle skit at that moment. Unhand me, wench. You know, it's like a Dave Chappelle skit. And he says, my work is not done, you know. And basically he says, I got to go back to heaven and I'll come back to get y'all later. But don't worry, I'll be back soon. Now imagine that emotional roller coaster, right? And then the questions I pose throughout the book are questions like, if Jesus, after being crucified and going to hell and taking the keys to death, hell, and the grave, and rising with all power in his hands. All right, then. If he had all power in his hands, then why did he need to go to heaven? Okay, wait a minute. He came from heaven. You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the cross. My debt you paid, from the cross to the grave. From the grave to the sky. That's called a fucking loop at that moment. Okay, you came from heaven and then you went back to the sky. What the fuck for? I call this a pause on the play. You know what I'm saying? And I introduced this in the book. Now, obviously, in the book, I don't say stuff like what the fuck for, but I do present it in a way that says, wait a minute, if this Jesus came to save the world, and what was needed for him to save the world was to be crucified. And then that he just needed to go to hell and get the keys to the grave, you know, and all that shit. And then he did that. And then he came back with all power. But then he said, oh, I'm sorry, I still don't got enough. I got to go back to heaven and get some other shit. And then I'll be back. Bruh, you was in heaven before you got here. Nobody missed that point. Like, what did you not get from heaven when your ass was up there the first time? And so those are some of the things we walk people through. Man. Yeah, that shit was aggravating, right? And God will, what it say? Be not dismayed, whatever betide. God will take care of you. And then you have the women preachers who start doing that bullshit too. And then it's just gonna be like, oh damn, this is ugly. Oh man. Oh shit. Okay, so I gotta catch up with all of these. Great channel. So glad you're here. Bible college started my deconstruction journey, and being in church leadership sealed the deal. Hey, church leadership, won't it do it? Won't it do it? Yes, it will, because you see the real deal there. Oh, I was on the children's choir. You just brought memories. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Oh my goodness. Yeah, like I mean, with all of that breathing, like you sure somebody's gonna hyperventilate at some moment. Like, bro, like chill a little bit. Oh man. And I think I did get close a few times. What was the main thing that made you begin to question your faith? For me, it was realizing that the idea that the country or culture I'm born into deciding which God I believed in was ridiculous. That definitely played a role in for me. I think it was a lot of things, right? Man, it was so much. Went back to heaven. What the fuck for? Yes, that's it. That's the thing right there. That's the line, right? Like, what the fuck for? You came from heaven. Why do you need to go back? What do you need to do? The thing that I often remind Christians of now is like, if Jesus saved the world, why isn't the world saved? Fuck off. Until you figure out the answer to that shit, fuck the fuck off. Man, yes, wonderful day. So for me, it was a few things. One of the big things was realizing that as a Black Christian, I couldn't feel about my life the same way that white Christians could. That was like a straw that broke the camel's back. That like white Christians could be like, oh, you destroyed something that we love. We're going to get y'all asses. And then as a Black Christian, I always had to be reminded that, oh, you got to forgive. You got to love. And I'm like, wait a minute. We reading from the same fucking book. How is it that like you get to say we will never forget, and my message has to be we will always forgive? I'm like, how the fuck are we reading the same book and having a different posture? So that was definitely a big thing for me. And mind you, which I've shared on for my story, I've shared on my story a lot when I've been on other channels, is my deconversion happened between Trayvon Martin's death and Mike Brown's death, in particularly watching the Black church's response. Pissed me the fuck off. I was not happy, primarily because I realized that a lot of my contemporaries, people who I called friends, some of which who I considered mentors, were commercializing the deaths of these brothers without any real intentions of building any strategy. And I'm not trying to say that they were 100% being wicked. I'm saying that the standard in church leadership is so fucking low that most of these people are C-level, D-level students at best who are likely class clowns all throughout school who just found out they're good entertainers but not good enough to make it in the entertainment industry. And so when it and I know that was a little harsh, but I've been drinking, speaking of which, that's just the way the fuck I feel. And that was the way the fuck I felt, because a part of being a Black pastor is promoting yourself as a pillar of your community. And I wasn't a pastor during the what was the guy who can't we all just get along? You know, I wasn't a pastor through that. But I was a pastor through Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown. And then, of course, there was a slew of bodies after that. And then, of course, in Georgia, we had Kendall Griffin, which was a whole nother issue. But obviously, a part of me wanted to be wrong at white folk, and rightfully so, some of y'all. I mean, let's be real. And definitely, I'm not a fan of policing, you know. I'm not one of the people who necessarily says, hey, let's defund the police. That's a whole nother issue. But I'm not a fan of policing in this country and how it has, how we've never corrected the obvious problems, you know. But as a preacher, or as a pastor who was always trying to be genuine in my faith, my understanding was that judgment must always begin in the house of God. Hallelujah. So my righteous indignation was with other pastors because we have been promoting ourselves as the pillars of our communities. And in all actualities, we were pacifying our communities. And I'm not even just saying, because, yeah, I got some Black nationalist tendencies. If you ain't recognized that, your ass is blind. But it wasn't just that we're pacifying, as in keeping them from not standing up. You know, we're also pacifying in the sense of not even letting them know that they're capable of standing up. And so a major part of my deconstruction and my deconversion was I don't want to be a part of the fucking problem. I remember my church did a gas giveaway, which it was an incredible experience, and it was a life-changing experience for me. And for several reasons, like there were so many lessons I learned. Like pulling it together was hard. We even tried to call the police department in advance to get their support because I had the sneaky suspicion if you say free gas, people gonna show the fuck up, you know. And guess what people did? They showed the fuck up. And so like we literally, like our city doesn't have traffic, but for 8 hours that day, our highways were shut down. My church did it. And it was a major victory for my members, for my leaders. And people felt really good, right? Because we were out there, we were washing their windows. We weren't just paying for the gas, we were filling the gas. No, don't you get out. We got you. Because our whole goal was we just want to show you that we care. And hint, hint, atheist community, this is some easy shit that you can do. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to wait for anybody else to do it. This is the shit that we're trying to do in different ways because this is where this story is going to go. But we were just trying to, the big goal was to show people that we cared, right? But there was a little old lady whose car ran out of gas right before getting to the pump. And I know, like, my deconstruction story is a little different. My deconversion, rather. I was deconstructing from day damn one. But her car ran out of gas while she was waiting in line, which was no problem because the men in my church, which there were a lot of men in my church, which just like there are a lot of men who support this channel, the men in my church immediately went to her car, pushed it up to the tank, reassured her, pumped her gas, washed her windows, tried to make her laugh, but she just couldn't stop crying because she was like, I didn't know how I was going to make it another day. And when she said that, it was like a cog got knocked loose in my head. Because while everybody else was like, oh, we did such an amazing thing, my mind was, oh, we can't do this tomorrow. And we can't do this today after that. And we can't do this today after that. And we had no plans of doing this anytime after that. And the reality is the people who are going to benefit the most from this, they don't just need it today. They need it tomorrow and the day after that. And that's when I realized, like, holy shit, my magical thinking and my shallow approach to the world because of religious superstition is making me think that I'm solving a problem without actually properly interrogating what the problem is. And the sad thing about it is, as a pastor, there were some real problems that I could have actually played a part in solving. You know, just like one of them that I thought about, and I was going to do a video on this, is just like some of the small ways that I could have made a more impactful difference as a pastor if I was critically engaging the world around me. All of my tithing members could have been given free licenses to all of the software that the church used. I know many of you, they're like, what the fuck is that? That don't mean shit, but you have no idea how powerful that is. You have no idea how many children and how many teenagers and how many adults are at home who are economically stifled simply because they don't have access to certain programs to play around with. But as a pastor that was very creative, my church had licenses for software like QuickBooks. We had licenses to software like Adobe Photoshop. We had licenses to software like, what's that other stuff? It's Premiere, Adobe Rush. We had like a slew of different licenses that ultimately those things were being paid for by the generosity of our members. But we were so caught up in trying to solve these big problems that mathematically we weren't equipped to solve, that we were overlooking tangible problems that could have made the world of difference in some of my members' lives. I could just imagine some of those, especially some of those younger people who were creative, having that free license to Adobe software. You know what I'm saying? And being able to use it and knowing that, man, because my parents are members of this church, we have this access. And so I know that's a weird way of saying it, but because I was a pastor, because I actually wanted to help people, having to live that moment on top of going through the Trayvon Martin, Mike Brown situation was a harsh reminder that not only are we not solving any fucking problems, we're not even trying to. We're literally just trying to look like we're solving problems so people will come to our church. And I wanted no part of that. Now, I know that's a different approach than most other people take, but the other nuance in my story is that I had been deconstructing the entire time a part of my faith. So by the time that I deconverted, 5 years prior to that, I had already stopped believing in the idea of hell. I never bought into the idea of hell, you know. So I was never what they would call a normal Christian anyway. So when people be like, "Oh, you were never one of us," I'd be like, "Thank you, bitch. I never wanted to be one of y'all anyway. Fuck you." And the horse you rode in on. Okay, so I got to catch up with these comments. All right. Yep, Zimmerman going around signing bags of Skittles and T-Cans. Yes, and the fact people thought that was funny was absolutely disgusting. They end up pastors and then cops. Like, you're not wrong there, you know? You're not wrong there. Man. Rodney King, that was it. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. I remember when that happened. Wow. And that was rough. I think what was the iconic line, "Can't we all just get along?" God sanctioned slavery got me out of the illusion. Yes, that will do it. Sometimes I noted about a lot of afterlife focused religions is that they make a lot of people very complacent, and that's the root of a lot of issues. Oh, okay, so I'm gonna want to come back to that, and I gotta leave in a few moments. I've been here longer than I'm supposed to already. Religious charity is only ever a band-aid for systemic issues, systemic problems, and that was a hard pill for me to swallow. Like seriously, that one's ridiculous too, for sure. All right, so I'm going back to this one. Afterlife focused religions is that they make a lot of people very complacent. Like that was so I was, I told you, like I deconverted in 2014. I was an atheist. It was clear to me, but I wasn't really sharing it with other people all the way. I did share it with a few pastor friends. But a part of me deciding to become a vocal atheist was just realizing how much religious superstition and its aftermath was crippling my community because, just this belief in an afterlife or this belief in a magical sky pimp, who's going to take care of your Johns for you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's damaging. It's a damaging belief. And like it's the sad thing is I deconverted because I realized that me preaching it was not helping anybody. It took me years later to realize that me believing it had damaged me too. Like it had robbed me of agency and autonomy in life, which is why I'm as fucking hyper productive as I am now. And I'm unapologetic about it. I know people are like, Durante, you work too hard. You do too much. I'm worried. I'm concerned. And I'm like, I get it, but you have to understand I wasted a lot of time, and life isn't gracious. Life isn't different. And during that time that I was wasting, I brought 4 beautiful children into this world, or I'm responsible for 4 beautiful children. And so because of that, no, like I get it. People like, oh, you need to take a break. I can't do that. I wasted too much time to take a break. Like I should have lived my life like I wanted breaks, and I didn't, because I lived my life like there was a magical sky pimp who was going to be taking care of shit, instead of me actually critically engaging the world that I lived in and determining the best way for me to navigate it, to get those things that I value and that I find important. So, but thank you for highlighting that, because it's a real thing. It's a real problem. This is why people navigate to a lot of these scam artists on YouTube. This is why what the video I did on Terrence Howard, I highlighted that Terrence Howard is the least of our worries. He's just a guy that really thought he was buying into his own hype. There are which I highlighted how wrong he was. Don't get me wrong, and how damaging that is. But there are other people who keep selling people this idea of a shortcut or a better life that you had nothing to do with. And that's just not helpful. Man, No True Scotsman, a classic. Yep. Maya Atkinson in the building. I did an impromptu live, man. Like, yes, I'm getting ready to go eat in a few. I always ask theists, why God created those he knew wouldn't make it. They answer with free will. The question went sailing over their head. Yeah, like I don't like to say that they're not a bright bunch, but the cognitive dissonance definitely dims their light on these particular issues. It's a real thing. I do find it interesting that most people presuppose that free will results in greater good when just having no suffering at all sounds better. That's hilarious. Oh, super chat. Thank you. Thanks for your time and the honest conversation about a section of my life that have been anything but. Wow, that's beautiful. I appreciate you. And that's really the goal. My goal is, man, to help people feel more comfortable having honest and authentic conversations. We're not all gonna agree because we don't all have the same experiences. We don't all have the same perspectives. And I think that's been one of the most dangerous things that we've created that has come out of religious superstition, is this need to pressure other people to see the world that we see the world through. And I hope that's one of the things that I do kind of convey on this channel, that when I'm sharing my thoughts, I'm not saying I need you to share these thoughts, you know. Instead, what I'm saying is, these are my thoughts, and this is how you be yourself. Share your thoughts and be willing to learn from other folks, but stand on fucking business. You know what I'm saying? Stand your ground and just, you know, create that space to be honest, because we need it. We need that shit. If Exodus was true, why does no one care that their God is why they were enslaved to begin with? Yes. And then we just, the very last Bible study with an ex-pastor we did, it's like, so God delivered these people from Egypt and punished Egypt because Egypt had made them slaves. And then the first thing God does in Exodus chapter 20 is tell them how to treat their slaves. And one of the rules is, if you hit them so hard that you knock their eye out, you got to let them go free. Don't give them any money, but let them go free. That's God for you. Yep. If there's no suffering, there's no control. Oh, yes. And primarily because they have to frame that suffering as something that's too big for you, you know. And like, especially in the more charismatic and urban churches, I know for those of you who have Catholic backgrounds, this may not have been the thing, or even the Reformed backgrounds. But in the charismatic background, the big point is there's a lot of suffering and it's too big for you. So you got to give it to Jesus. Jesus, take the wheel. And then everybody crashes. Yes, it was always so suspicious that the Bible is full of so many people that know this all-powerful God personally and be like, nah, am I right? Like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. One of my former mentors, like, and when he made this statement, like, I don't even know, and I think you'll find this to be a common thread among a lot of urban preachers, is that most of them have deconverted and just don't know it yet. But one of the things that he used to say in his messages all the time is that everybody claimed to know Jesus, but ain't nobody in a hurry to meet him. You know, everybody claimed to love Jesus, but ain't nobody in a hurry to meet him. And that was his way of saying, like, nobody's happy about death, you know, and nobody's trying to die. Nobody's happy if the doctor tells you, hey, tomorrow you're going to meet Jesus. Nobody hears that shit that way. And that's why one of the reasons why on my channel, you'll hear me talk about, like, when people say like stuff like, oh, Christianity gives people hope. I'm like, you've not been to a Christian funeral. Slavery never ended. The master just changed from people to dogmatism and fear. Absolutely. Absolutely. But see, here's the thing. Like, here's the little secret. And my wife just walked in, so that means this is my cue. Here's the secret about slavery. And many of you, or at least modern day shit, like, and especially in stuff like this, the best way to combat slavery is to teach people and to support people in being their authentic selves. I always cringe when I read historical documents that say this many slaves ran away. And I said, no, slaves don't run away. Nope. The people who run away are the people who have realized I am a fucking human being. And the deception of any type of system, whether it's based on race, whether it's based on class, whether it's based on any type of socioeconomic factor, the deception is that there is something too big for you to handle. You know, it's something too big for you to change. The person who burns down the plantation, the person who decides to break free and run, is not a person who sees themselves as a slave to that system. It's a person who sees that system as an instrument of slavery, and they've decided to no longer participate. So in my closing words, and I do got it. Oh, I got to hit this. Oh, snap. Super chat. Thank you. Proud of you. Continue to grow. I appreciate that. That's beautiful. Beautiful. My final words is don't let the system define you. Don't let the system know what your options are. Because at the end of the day, to fight an unjust system, you need people who are willing to no longer be identified by it, to no longer be labeled by it, and to no longer plot their plans and ideas by it. As long as your conversation is going to be, well, they're never going to let, and they're never going to do this, then you've already relegated yourself to staying in that slave mindset. This is one of the reasons why I'm an atheist. This is one of the reasons why I'm a humanist, because ain't nobody got to let me do shit. I've made up in my mind that the only thing it takes for evil or wickedness or inhumaneness or inhumanity to prosper in this world is for good people to sit back and do nothing except for saying, well, that's just how the system is. That sounds a lot like Nazism to me. And so my encouragement, and that's really the work that we do on this channel, many of you have seen it, is to help people find that confidence, that fidelity of self, to realize that nobody else has to give you permission to break free. That shit has to be worth something to you. And honestly, what this world needs, what we really need, are people who are willing to do the work to break free, so that we can all work together to help those who can't. Because there are some who can't. You know, that's the reality. There are some who have a myriad of issues, a myriad of obstacles that are too big for them to overcome. But by far and large, the vast majority of us, there are more of us, and we only really need 20% of the global population. That's just reality. If 20% of the global population would shake free of these political and religious superstitions, we could absolutely accelerate global societal change. Man. Thank you, man. Yes, everyone, please have a wonderful day. About to break free soon, hopefully. Yeah, he needs to. He needs to. And I hope when he does, because let's be honest, Kirk has been secular for a long time, right? And Kirk needs some help. He needs some help. Like and his music is valuable. It's just sickening, some of it, and it's not even biblical. Like he has one that's a whole bump, right? It's a whole vibe. I don't want to love nobody but you. I don't want to love nobody but you. I don't want to love nobody but you. That beat is dope, but those words are horrible as fuck. And that's not even biblical. So I don't know what the fuck Kirk is going through, but I hope he's deconverting just so that we can finally get some substantive music out of him. Set that brother free. Man, enjoyed having y'all here. And yep, with that note, I've got to get out of here. Let me get on this brand page, so I can choose the right thing. We got there's a new song that I've been playing around with. This one is a little different, but I'm gonna play it on the outro. I love y'all so much. Thank y'all for hanging out with me. Until next time, please. No, before we do that, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell. Consider joining, supporting, or connecting with this community channel or content in any way that makes sense to you. And check out the merch because it's dope as fuck. And we have books. Check out the books. All right, now until next time, keep rising. I'll holler at y'all later. Enjoy this music. Enjoy the outro. And stay to the end to check out the credits if you're curious to how many people play a role in making this happen. I was spending my life in the servitude of misunderstandings of people I loved. Giving it all, it was never enough. Because of the fall, I could never get up. I moved on from their misunderstandings. I'm no longer
longer standing under them. I was drowning, now I swim, 'cause I found the strength within. I don't need your absent friend, 'cause I got this, yeah. 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 This is holy ground. Depraved and deprived, I was living their lives, lost in the moment with truth sacrificed. Voices of plenty that never seemed right, distractions and visions that altered my sight. I moved on from their misunderstandings. I'm no longer standing under them. I was drowning, now I swim, 'cause I found the strength within. I don't need your absent friend, 'cause I got this, yeah. 'Cause I got this, yeah. 'Cause I got this, yeah. 'Cause I got this, yeah, yeah. Ooh, this